Imagine 3 men, all around the same age, all dealing with the same things. Low energy, low libido, and not feeling like themselves anymore. The first one goes to a men's health clinic and gets put on TRT. The second one gets sold a peptide protocol. And the third starts buying steroids online. Same symptoms, 3 completely different paths. Only one of them actually made sense for the problem. That's the issue. The internet treats peptides, TRT, and steroids like they all fall into the same category. It's just like, pick your level and go. But they are completely different tools with very different purposes, and they all come with very different consequences for your hormones, for your sex life, for your fertility, even for your relationships. Today, I'm breaking down what each one actually does, who it's really for, and how to figure out which path, if any, matches what's going on in your body. Because the wrong choice here doesn't just waste money, it can quietly mess up the very thing that you were trying to fix. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. But here's one thing I know for sure. If you are going to start any kind of protocol that deeply impacts your hormones, do not go in unprepared. And no, watching YouTube videos, even this one, does not count as preparation. The only way to know what's actually going on for you is to get proper blood work and to work with a clinician who can actually interpret it. And that's why I recommend Merrick Health. I've worked with them myself, and I genuinely believe that they are the best in the business. I will link them in the description. All right, let's get started with the gentlest tool in our toolbox, peptides. Here is the simplest way to understand peptides. Think of them like short text messages that your body uses to communicate internally. Your body already makes a ton of them naturally, literally 30,000 discovered peptides so far. They send signals that regulate things like growth, appetite, inflammation, recovery, and sleep. When people in the optimization space talk about peptide therapy, they're usually talking about using specific lab-made peptides to send a specific signal in your body. It's essentially a nudge to a system that already exists, like texting a part of your body and telling it what to do. Most men aren't looking at peptides just because they want bigger biceps. They're looking at them because they want to feel better overall, including recovering faster after workouts, fewer body aches, better sleep, sometimes better body composition. And here's where it connects to men in the bedroom. A lot of men report that when their sleep and recovery improve, their energy for sex improves too. Their body feels more responsive. And actually, there are other peptides that do impact libido and sex, but even for those other peptides that don't, you could still have some downstream effect that also improves your sex drive or your libido. A big part of peptide therapy for men's health focuses on growth hormone signaling. Some peptides are used to stimulate your body to release more of its own natural growth hormone instead of injecting growth hormone directly. I may mess up this word. These are called growth hormone secretagogues. I'm going with that. So it's not that you're replacing a hormone, you're actually just giving your system a push. How do you take peptides? This is the part that a lot of people are embarrassed to ask, so I'll just say it clearly. Most peptide therapies are given as small subcutaneous injections, a tiny needle into the fat layer, not deep into the muscle. Those are the injections that hurt. And as someone who has given herself plenty of injections, I can say, yeah, it's a little uncomfortable, but it's easy to get over too. There are 2 categories that you're gonna hear the most about. The first is growth hormone support peptides, compounds like ipamorelin and sermorelin. These are used to nudge the body's own growth hormone release. To be super transparent, most of the stronger clinical evidence for these comes from populations that are actually growth hormone deficient. For otherwise healthy men looking for optimization, there is limited clinical evidence. But the stories that I've heard anecdotally from my many friends who are taking them do sound really incredible. The second is recovery-focused peptides, the most well-known being BCP-157. You'll hear about it in injury and recovery and sports optimization circles. People are using it hoping for better tissue healing, specifically with aches, joint issues, and chronic pains. Just like other peptides, almost all of the research on this one comes from animal studies. Human clinical trial is generally non-existent, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't work. What's being funded in science, which is an incredibly slow and rigorous process, doesn't always match what people are experiencing for themselves outside of the lab. Now, that doesn't mean that it is safe either, but it's definitely worth weighing those 2 pools of data, rigorous empirical data, and what you're hearing anecdotally. And just to be clear again, I'm not an expert on these things. I'm doing my best to educate myself and you. And what I'm explaining and why these names keep showing up in conversation is because there's a lot of news media, controversy, and speculation about them right now. But if you're hearing these and you feel like you might be getting behind on this trend, I'm sharing this so that you have something to work with, so that you can stop feeling lost and that you can start asking better questions and doing research for yourself. Here's the part that makes peptides tricky. The folks who are taking them, including several of my friends, talk about them very casually, almost like adding another supplement, like taking more vitamin D or something. But sourcing of these peptides, especially as they become more popular and more people are looking for them and purchasing them, is a massive issue. A lot of peptides are sold as research only and are not held to the same standards as other medical grade compounds. That means purity and dosing accuracy can be sketchy, and there's a real risk of contaminants. The reason that there is so much snake oil in this space and quality subpar product is that real peptides can be pretty expensive. Like if you go to a physician to get testosterone, it can cost $400 a month. So if you're going to get anywhere near peptides, I highly recommend that you work closely with a clinician or at least someone who's extremely familiar with what they can do to your body, because there is a huge difference between this actually helped my recovery and I just injected some random substance into my body and crossed my fingers. Peptides are the gentler tool, but what I'm about to cover next is the one that changes men's lives the most when it's the right fit. That's TRT. Now, if peptides are encouraging your body to do more of what it already does, TRT is stepping in from the outside and giving it more testosterone directly. This is not a little text message nudge. TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, is meant to restore normal levels of testosterone when they're clinically low. It is really that simple. But here's the part that most men don't fully understand. Testosterone isn't just about sex drive or building muscle. It's actually one of the body's biggest life force hormones for men. It influences your energy, your motivation, your mood, your mental clarity, your recovery, your muscle maintenance and body composition, and yes, on top of all of that, your sexual function, your confidence to initiate, your desire, your ability to stay present during sex, how connected you feel to your partner. When testosterone is in a healthy range, a lot of men describe feeling like they have more drive. They train more consistently. They experience mental clarity at work. They feel present in their bodies. They feel confident initiating sex. They bounce back faster after stress. But when testosterone is low, it's not just less libido. It can feel like you're dragging your way through life, like you have to push through things that used to be easy. And in the bedroom, it's not that your desire is gone. It's sometimes just that your body won't cooperate. And that's why TRT can be a massive game changer for the right person. I have worked with multiple clients who were in their 40s or their 50s and described their lives exactly like that. They loved their partners, they still wanted to have sex, but their body wasn't cooperating. They felt tired or anxious. They started feeling less like a man. Usually by the time they've come to me, they've tried all the things that you'd expect. Supplements, caffeine, pushing harder in the gym, lifting heavier, even convincing themselves just to try to initiate sex just to get into it. But none of this makes them feel better. When clients like this come to me, I send them immediately to Merrick Health for proper blood work. And often the results confirm what their bodies have been trying to tell them. Testosterone is clinically low. The team at Merrick helps to put you on a plan that actually matches your biology. And the shift that you can experience is not just a change in your libido. It's as if you've been trying to win in a race on an empty tank. Once your body has what it actually needs, everything starts to click. Your energy, your mood, your confidence, and yes, your sex life. And that's what TRT can do when it's the right fit. But here is the important part. TRT is not for everyone. And there are things that you need to know before you go down this road. First, because TRT introduces testosterone from outside of your body, it suppresses your body's own testosterone production. Specifically, it suppresses the hormones LH and FSH that tell your testes to produce sperm. Now, I will not sugarcoat this. TRT will very likely reduce your sperm production. For some men, that's reversible and it comes back when they stop. For others, it's not. And by the way, in case you're thinking, oh my gosh, free male birth control, that's not the case either. If you are on TRT, you still have to use other methods to protect an unwanted pregnancy, whether that's a vasectomy or condoms or something else. If having children is still on the table for you, then this is a conversation you must have with a doctor before you start. Second, TRT is about getting you back to healthy physiological levels. If you get too much or if it's poorly managed, you can run into some real serious side effects. Skin issues, breast tissue growth, prostate concerns, mood changes. Some of the more serious complications are actually worse than why they started treating it to begin with. And they're usually associated with doses that push far beyond the actual therapeutic range, which is when you're crossing into steroid territory, not TRT. And third, a lot of men don't actually need TRT. They need to stop living like their nervous system is in a hostage situation. I've coached men in their late 20s and 30s who are convinced that they need TRT because they feel tired and unmotivated and they're not recovering. And then you zoom out and realize that they're sleeping 5 hours a night, they're training like they're auditioning for the SEALs, they're stressed out of their mind, they're drinking more alcohol than they realize, eating protein instead of food. For that guy, TRT isn't the first line of defense. It might be the last. The first answer is fixing your sleep, your recovery, your stress, your metabolic health. Often when you fix the foundation, symptoms improve. But that is all why medical supervision isn't just ideal, it's actually crucial. How will you know what's going on unless you actually know what's going on? Let's move on to our third category, and the one that often does the most damage. This is the one that 10 years ago had the internet going completely off the rails. A lot of men out here think that steroids are basically just TRT, but that is not the case. TRT is intended to restore you to a healthy physiological range under medical supervision. Anabolic steroid use is often supraphysiologic, meaning that it pushes your hormones well beyond normal human levels. And it's usually used for performance and aesthetics, not health restoration. And this is where guys actually get hurt, because a lot of men who are watching aren't trying to become bodybuilders. They're just trying to feel normal again. They want energy and libido and confidence. Anabolic steroids are usually not the right tool for that goal. Let me explain this to you in a way that makes sense if you're not already on the fitness internet. When people say steroids, they're usually talking about anabolic androgenic steroids, compounds designed to crank up the muscle building and performance side of hormones. Yes, they include hormones, but that is not the same as a medically supervised hormone replacement therapy. TRT is trying to get you back to a healthy, normal physiology. Steroid use is all about pushing well past normal physiology to create a performance outcome, usually more muscle and strength and intensity. And while that might sound appealing on paper, it comes with costs that most men aren't thinking about when they're just trying to fix low libido or low energy. If you're a guy who feels tired, foggy, less sexual, less confident, anabolic steroids are like using a flamethrower to light a candle. You might get a big effect, sure, but you might also burn down the whole kitchen. Because once you start flooding the body with super physiologic androgens, you're not just adding more testosterone, you're interfering with your entire endocrine feedback system, the part of you that decides what to produce and what to shut down and how to keep everything in balance. And that's where things can go very wrong. In researching for this video, I read about a guy in his late 30s who had done 2 cycles, testosterone and DECA, because he wanted to look better and feel more confident. 6 months later, he couldn't get an erection. His mood was all over the place and his relationship was falling apart. His post-cycle blood work was an absolute mess, and it took a year to stabilize his hormones. He didn't start because he wanted to be a bodybuilder. He started because he didn't feel like himself anymore. And he ended up further from himself than he'd ever been. And that is what I see over and over again. Men who go to steroids looking for energy and confidence, but end up with worse sexual function, emotional volatility, hormonal disruption, and a body that feels way worse than when they started. And that is the exact opposite of what they were after. The side effect profile is serious. Fertility issues, hormone shutdown, long-term disruption, extreme mood volatility, sexual dysfunction, long-term cardiovascular risk. And even if you put the health risks aside for a second, a huge amount of what's out there is from the black market. So you don't actually know what you're getting. People are injecting things that may be contaminated, may contain bacteria, might be mislabeled, might not be accurately dosed, or dosed the same from bottle to bottle. If you are watching this video because you want energy and libido and confidence and long-term health, anabolic steroids are usually the wrong category entirely. So here's the framework that I actually walk my clients through, and it's simpler than most people think. If you want better energy, libido, confidence, and recovery, here's how to think about it. Step 1, be honest about your foundations. Are you sleeping 7+ hours? Are you managing your stress? Are you eating real food in a balanced diet? Are you training without destroying yourself? If not, stop there. I can't tell you how many men I've worked with whose symptoms improved just by repairing this layer without drugs or protocols, just giving their body what it actually needs to function. But on to step 2. If your foundations are solid and you're still symptomatic, get comprehensive blood work. Not the basic panel that your GP runs once a year. I mean a full hormone panel. Testosterone, free testosterone, SHBG, estradiol, thyroid, metabolic markers. You need the whole picture, not just one number. Be prepared to pay for this because your health insurance is just that. It is insurance. If you want to soup up the engine in your car, it's going to cost you extra, and that is perfectly okay. We're talking about your health and longevity here. I know that might be tough to hear, but I'd rather you invest in that than like take an extra vacation this year. You will reap the benefits for the rest of your life, and that's worth it. You'll reap the benefits every single day if you end up on TRT. Step 3, if your testosterone is clinically low and you've already optimized your lifestyle, that is where TRT becomes a real conversation. Work with a clinician who can supervise your protocol, monitor your levels, and adjust as needed. I cannot stress that enough, adjust as needed. Step 4, if your testosterone is into a reasonable range, but you're looking for an edge in recovery or sleep or body composition, that's where peptide therapy may come into play. Again, under medical guidance from a legitimate source. And step 5, if someone is telling you that steroids are the answer to feeling tired and wanting better sex, walk away. That is not the right tool for this job. The win isn't taking the most intense thing, it's taking the correct thing at the right way at the right time. And if you want to do this properly and stop guessing, I cannot recommend Americ Health enough. It's where I send the men who I work with, it's where I go myself, and I have seen incredible results. The link is in the description, and you can use my code CaitlinV for a discount when you get started. If you want, please go and leave me a comment. What did you learn here? What surprised you? What did I miss? What symptoms are you dealing with, and how are you approaching them? Thanks so much for watching. I'm Caitlin V. I'll see you next time.